Hey, what up, everybody? This is Adam, and you're listening to the Ferment podcast. My guest today is a new friend. Just met him, Eddie Espinosa. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm so glad you're here.
I appreciate that, Adam. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're kind of like, you're a legend in the Vineyard. And we haven't even talked, but you're like one of the original guys, you know?
Well, thank you.
Isn't that correct?
Yeah,
that's correct. You're being shy, but you don't have to be.
Thank you. Anyway,
Yeah.
Carl was the first.
Yeah.
And then after Carl went to Santa Maria.
Yeah.
I forget what year it was. He's
Okay.
good with the dates and stuff. And then I took over after that, but I was the electric guitar player on the team.
Yeah.
And stuff. So.
Well, in my head, now, you correct me, because we're kind of jumping ahead here, but we're going to go back and do some early stuff here in a moment.
Uh-huh.
But at least in my head, Carl, you, Cindy.
Yeah.
This feels like the original.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the way it works?
That's right. We were all on the same team together.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'll tell you, I want a T-shirt at some point.
Do you?
Yeah, but this is what I want the T-shirt to say, Eddie. I want it to say, Carl and Eddie and Cindy and John and Marie. And if you get it, you get it.
Yes.
You know, I just want one of our graphic designers to make that T-shirt.
Okay. Like John, Paul, George, and Ringo.
Yeah. But I wanted to say Carl and Eddie and Cindy and John and Marie. And if you get it, you get it.
You get, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, how can you be
If you get it, you're in your 60s at least.
Well, I don't know. See, I'm 42 and I would get it.
You would. Yeah.
I would get it. Anyway.
Interesting.
So happy you're here. We have a lot of ground to cover, but we'll just do what we always do on this podcast, which is we always talk like personal history and like the backstory. So where did you come from? Where did you grow up? What kind of family did you live in?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm first generation American citizen, born here in the U.S., L.A. My parents were both from Mexico.
Okay.
And they came in 1946 after World War II.
Dang. So the year after.
Yeah.
Oh, what city in Mexico?
Reynosa. Tamaulipas. Yeah, which is right now it's a border town. Mm-hmm. So
that feels like cowboy land.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
Back in the West Texas town of El Paso. It wasn't El Paso, but on the way there.
Reynosa.
Yeah.
All right, sweet.
Yeah. And I went to kindergarten speaking Spanish and then learned English watching Popeye.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Popeye and TV and that.
That's so good.
My kindergarten teacher didn't know why I would go,
Yeah, so you were just picking it up from TV?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So.
And what kind of family did you have? Was it a family of faith? Were you church people or not?
Not at all.
Yeah, just talk to me about that a little bit.
Oh gosh, long story, but it turns out that my mom had a history of being a Christian from growing up. But and we didn't find that out until afterwards. My dad was real strict Catholic, but it was a dysfunctional family that didn't have a real faith base. But we knew that God was there, and I know that there was God protecting and leading and directing and mainly protecting. Very dysfunctional family.
Yeah, But even in the dysfunction, there's like God consciousness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's an awareness of God.
Absolutely.
We believe in God.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe we don't know what to do, but there's something there.
Yeah, and then we would call on him in the very, Latino type of God is there and he's, all the traditions.
So when did God become real?
I was 15 years old. Well, 15, just turned 15, about to turn 16. August 24th, 1969. Yeah.
Yeah, and what happened? What sort of precipitated that?
Oh my gosh, just amazing things. All throughout growing up, when my mom went to work, I had Christian babysitters. All of them were, Baptist, Pentecostal, Methodist, and they would sing hymns and stuff. And they would read their Bible when they were done making us food and stuff. And it was just, something that always drew me to that, And then I was in a band as a teenager, and the bass player's mom and dad and sister and brother-in-law were all converted. They were all converted drug dealers, in Santa Ana. Yeah. And Emilio, for example, had fried his brain, too much drugs, and but God taught him to reading the Bible.
Really?
Yeah, it was just amazing. So I saw some amazing things with that. And so they invited me to church, and so I went 2 weeks in a row, and the pastor, it was a Spanish-speaking church in an English-speaking larger church, and so they'd have Sunday school, and I spoke English well by that time, but I was it was the summer between my sophomore and junior year, and so he starts with John chapter 1 and goes John chapter 2, and that was the first week. He would do the Sunday school lesson, and then he would preach to the adults, right? And we would go to the English service. And then after that, the second week was John 3 and John 4.
Yeah.
He took us through John, obviously. And because it's all of the I ams of Jesus.
The 7 I
there,
ams.
the 7, they're all there. And it was like, so by the time he got to 4, I learned a couple of things. One is that God is a spirit, and those that worship him worship in spirit and in truth. And then it's the woman at the well, right? And so he looks at me. His name was John Alfaro. Wonderful man, just a wonderful man, bivocational mechanic, but boy, did he work. And he was somewhat of a father figure to me. And he looked at me and he says, and there was only 2 of us in the Sunday school class, right? And he says, would you like a drink of that water so that you'll never thirst again? And I said, yes. And it was like, he led us through the sinner's prayer, went into the service, gave the testimony. The following night, went to a Dave Wilkerson youth rally.
Yeah.
And saw Andre Crouch. And wow.
So it touched your heart.
That changed my life. Yeah.
What did you resonate with in that moment? I mean, clearly Spirit of God, but like
the presence of God was just so powerful. And the Lord said to me, I mean, I heard his voice for the first time in that way. And he said, this is what I created you for. I thought, oh my gosh, and it was just, it was, I had a profound, I cried literally for 3 hours straight. But when the thing was over, they took me back home. My dad worked the swing shift. I said, and he was going to get home at midnight, and this was like 9:30, 10. I go, you guys can't take me home. My folks won't understand what's going on. They won't understand. They're going to think something's wrong. And so we went back to Carlos's house. Carlos was a bass player. And I had gotten a Bible the Sunday before, and was giving it to me. And Carlos's mom comes in, and she says, here. She gave me my Bible, and she says, just look through it. And I'm still just so overwhelmed by the presence of God. And I just did one of those, and
that verse.
And it had to do with the Levites in Chronicles, in First and Second Chronicles, but it was First Chronicles where David, is getting the Levites together and stuff. And then after a while, it was getting close to the time that, man, they had to take me home because Dad they'd wonder where he was. Oh, he's in church, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And what happened is that she came in and prayed peace over me. And just as profoundly as it came on me, it lifted, and I had an overwhelming sense of peace.
Yeah.
It was just amazing.
What I hear in your story there is, and you're drawing this together really great, but just that you meet Jesus, you go to the David Wilkerson event, Andre Crouch, presence of the Lord says, this is what I made you for, David and the Levites. Like it sounds to me, or at least what I'm hearing is like from the very beginning, God was putting his finger on some kind of a call in your life.
Yeah.
Did you understand it to be music at that point, or are these just like details that are like, wow, this is kind of weird? But
no,
okay.
I did understand it to be music at the time.
Yeah.
I have some pictures of me as a little kid.
You texted them to me last night.
Yeah.
Hysterical. They're just
right.
Yeah,
It's like
we'll try to put them up on Instagram or something.
yeah.
I don't know. They're really funny. And this
they're
episode,
on my. I finally did a thing and Eddie Espinosa music, and I put those 3 pictures, but with regard to Father's Day and my dad's birthday and stuff, and basically, my folks were from the northern part of Mexico, right, with the polkas, and the accordion, which is so the norteño music. It's called the northern part of music. And my mom and dad were big fans of the Lawrence Welk Show, of course. Who wasn't, right, at that time? Black and white TV, the Lawrence Welk Show. And there was a guy on the Lawrence Welk Show. His name was Myron Florin. He was the accordionist, and he'd do the theme song and everything. And I think my folks wanted me to either be a norteño music player, but they play the accordion with a button, not keys. But Myron Florin played keys, so the pictures of me playing a little tiny toy guitar.
Yeah, it looks like almost a ukulele. It's
right.
It's so small.
Yeah, it's really small. And then there's the accordion. And then February 9th, 1964, the Beatles are on the Ed Sullivan Show. And,
the electric guitar got a hold of you?
I quit playing the accordion. Yeah, put it that way.
In a flash, in one moment, it's over.
Yeah.
My accordion career is done.
The accordion career is done. I'm doing the guitar.
Yeah.
At that, I'm like 12 years old, 11, and girls don't scream for accordion players. That's
did your mom and dad understand that?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they're like, the Beatles.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, this was like, those guys are ruining our youth.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they didn't understand that till later. until my dad was against all of that. The long hair was horrible.
Yeah.
Until he heard "Let It Be," the song.
Okay.
And and he's singing it. I love that song. I love that song. Yeah. Oh, that's a nice song. And I go, oh yeah, you like that song, Dad?
Yeah.
Those are the Beatles.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
it's like he'd been tricked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm hearing is music was in your family, and it was like even from a very early age.
Yes.
It was near to you.
Yes. I mean, there's those 2 pictures there. I'm with the accordion with my dad. My dad's playing the big one. And then there's one, my dad playing the violin and me playing the little guitar. Yeah. So, yeah. It's always music.
Okay. So did you always play music like when you were growing up? Like it wasn't just something you were just always playing the accordion or guitar or whatever?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then earlier in the story, you were saying that you were a part of a band and Carlos was the bass player.
Yeah.
Tell me about that band. What was that?
A typical top 40 garage band.
Did you guys play sock hops? I mean, I don't know.
We played all the high school dances.
Yeah.
Played the high school dances, for our age group, and played at keg parties.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You went to it's college, right? It's
no,
the 60s.
high school.
Oh, high school.
This is high school.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, Eddie,
I know.
True confession time. When I was in high school, we had field parties.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah. So these were like, so we would play for those because we were 4 guys and cheat. But I saw what alcoholism did for my dad. So, I mean, to this day, I've never been drunk in my whole life.
Yeah.
But I liked music. So I thought,
you played.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I got saved. So.
And then what happened after you got saved?
Well,
you just kept playing music?
I still played music for a while, but then I stopped playing at parties. I got that.
How did Carlos take
that? He kept playing. I couldn't. I didn't.
Yeah.
I felt.
I'm just being silly.
Yeah. But that's really what happened.
Yeah.
I stopped. I stopped at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you? I don't know. Maybe this is hopefully not too far down the storyline, but when did you start playing in church again, or playing worship?
It started off by I used to play with some of the Maranatha bands back in the day. I was.
Why don't you just tell everybody about that? Because a lot of people don't know. I'm just thinking about the people who listen to this podcast, maybe.
Well, okay.
Like because we know about maybe Vineyard Worship, but Vineyard Worship wasn't the only thing happening. There's Maranatha.
In in the early days that we were involved in that first tier, I guess you could call it, the foundational part of it was in the 80s, and or 79 is when we started going to the church. 79, and so it was Maranatha Music, Hosanna Integrity, and Vineyard. Yeah.
And so you started with the Maranatha group.
Playing with it was more evangelistic. It was more evangelistic at that
like
time.
Like an outreach? Is that what you mean?
Outreaches, yes. Yeah. There you go.
So who would preach? Do you remember
whoever was, but I was like, for example, John Wickham and I, we were both non-Christians together, playing in parties, playing at different things like that, and then we both got saved at around the same time. And he went on to play in a band called The Way, and his sons both are, and one of them is Phil Wickham, who's a worship leader now. So there was always that type of thing. Stir. So I started playing with the contemporary worship band, or contemporary Christian music bands.
Yeah.
But I was going to college at the time, and I knew that a couple of them wanted to go on the road, and they would go on the road. But I was enrolled in college, and I wanted to get married sometime and not wonder, what where the next meal is going to come from. And we had done enough of music ministry where we would drive, all the way across, the valley, and go play. And the person that got us to play would give us a love offering, and there was more love than offering.
Yeah.
We'd have to put our money together to pay for the gas to get back home.
So you knew what music ministry meant. You knew what
at
music
that time.
was.
Yes, absolutely. One brother did leather work, and he offered in payment to cover our Bibles with a really cool thing. But it was like we didn't know that going into. Of course, there weren't managers or contracts or anything.
Great. I love the Bible thing, but I
can't put it in my gas tank.
I need to go home. I can't.
It was funny. It was funny, but yeah. So anyway.
And you played electric guitar?
Yeah, and I was like a substitute, sort of like I'm in a substitute school administrator, now. I was the pinch hitter guitar player.
Okay, so
that's in the time of like Tommy Coombs, Tom Stipe, Scott Lockwood, and Chuck Girard, and all those guys. So yeah,
amazing. So you're the pinch hitting on the guitar.
Eric Nelson, yes.
Okay, so when did you come to the Vineyard? How did that happen?
When our daughter was born, 78, when she became a toddler, we thought, the Spanish-speaking church, small little church, we need to find something else. And so we started looking and we had moved to Yorba Linda.
Yeah.
So Maranatha Music was affiliated with Calvary Chapel. Yeah. And so, as you know, some of you may not know, but Vineyard was Calvary Chapel. Mm-hmm. So there was a Calvary Chapel, Yorba Linda. Yeah. The funny thing is that I would hear about this great church that was meeting at this school. And by the time that our daughter grew enough and, babies and the diaper bag and the whole thing, by the time we would decide to actually go, we would go, oh yeah, this church is really happening and they really love worship and they do a lot of music and stuff. And so we and by the time we'd go, it would just be just a regular church, with suits and ties and that kind of stuff. And then, there's another church. There's this church meeting over here. And that happened 3 different times. And later, we come in and it's Canyon High School. And it's Calvary Chapel, Yorba Linda. Yeah. John Wimber's on the piano. Carl's leading worship. And from the first moment that I walked in, we thought, oh my gosh, this is it. It was worship. And the
did it feel like the Andre Crouch moment, or was it something?
Yes.
In terms of the
presence of God. Yeah.
You're like, oh, I felt this before.
Yeah. This is very familiar. Yeah. And the thing is that later I come to find out that it was the same church. In other words, Calvary Chapel, Yorba Linda had been at each one of the high school or middle school auditoriums that we were finding. And so I told John once I got to know him, and some of the Maranatha Music guys, because John did some work with Maranatha Music, they told him about me. because hey, Eddie told us that he's going to your church now and stuff. And then anyway, and so then he called and got my number. He called and says, Eddie, I have a word from the Lord for you. And so he just read our mail, and it wasn't anything that we had talked to anybody about. Some of it had to do with the ambivalence of feeling like, oh man, we're leaving the Spanish speaking church. Is that bad? Or gosh, we're our culture and such. And so having some second thoughts and wondering if we had done the right thing and stuff, but we knew we had, but we just, got that confirmation, and stuff. So that was very exciting.
So John just calls and reads your prophetic mail.
Yeah.
Was that a new experience? Had you experienced that kind of a thing before?
The church that I went to for 10 years before coming to Vineyard, and because I stayed with a Spanish-speaking church, but went to Calvary Chapel on Friday night, Thursday morning, and Saturday night. So I had both, and so all the time that I was doing the playing with the bands, I was still on Sunday morning. I was still at the little Spanish-speaking church. Until we decided to not go anymore. And the thing is so I was still there. So we had a thing in those days called a presbytery. Okay. And it was a presbytery were not like Presbyterians, but they were prophetic people that would come out and there was in a group, and they would minister to, and they would say to the pastor, we want to come to your church. They would set it up, you know, and say, we want to come to your church and we want to minister. So be praying and call the church to pray over who, and when you feel who you want to receive ministry for that. Amazing. And them not knowing anything, they would lay hands and pray, and they would each start giving prophetic words over that. So I had like 10 years of that. And also the whole, it was part of the what is now known as the Latter Rain movement. So and that's where I learned the roots of worship, as far as the intimate worship and the experiencing the presence of God in worship,
and even the gifts of the Spirit.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So much so, because at that time Calvary Chapel wasn't really moving in that. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a few of those pictures from the Canyon High School.
Yeah.
I've only seen still pictures.
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't seen any video, and I've heard little bits of audio. I don't know if it's from Canyon, but it would be very, very early of like the worship, and it's really amazing to know that whatever the Vineyard is, that it started there.
Yeah.
Because like in the pictures, it's people with their hands.
Yes.
I mean, like the whole room.
Yes.
And it's a stirring picture.
Yeah. You would walk in, and from the first chord, it was people worshiping, because they understood what it was about. The crazy thing is that in the last year and in the last 3 years of my career as a school educator, 2 of those years were held were at Canyon High School.
So you were an administrator at Canyon?
At Canyon, yeah.
That's really...
And my kids went to Canyon.
Really?
So those toddlers running around, my kids running around in the toddler room where they got dedicated to the Lord, and in the gym and stuff, they attended school there all 4 years. And later on, I became an administrator for 2 years. I went on to become a principal, and then when I came back just last year, I did another 3 months as a sub there. So and so I got to tell you, man, it was like the first time when I heard I was going to Canyon, I thought, Lord, what is this? What are you doing? I walked into the gym, and it was like, oh my gosh. The things that happen.
Yeah, isn't it wild how God can weave something through our life? Some piece of the story just keeps pulling it back, pulling it back.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, and even the fact that I'm here today, means a lot.
Well, it means a lot that you're here, because people need to know. It was like I was telling you a few minutes ago off mic. A lot of people in the Vineyard do know this story, and they know your story and maybe your name and whatnot. But then the Vineyard is, it's 40 years on now. And a lot of our Vineyard worship leaders don't know the story.
Yeah.
And they don't know the people who maybe made contributions that give room for them to do what they do or to be who they are now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a really cool thing. This is like us, wanting to honor people who did the thing that God asked them to do, but then it's also like we want to fill in the gaps. We want people to know the story.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know we were digging the trenches. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Setting up for the water to flow through.
One of the things I love is I try to talk to as many original Vineyard people as I can. Like just, whenever possible, I want to talk to people. And one of the things that's come through over the years is, you just said it, no one knew. They knew that whatever was happening was God, right? But no one knew that, we're changing worship. And I'm using air quotes here.
Right.
No one knew, we're changing worship for the world. Or, no one had any grandiose idea or even like goal,
Right. Which I believe is why God used it so much. Why God used us, because we weren't trying to. All we, I have, I do occasionally. I get called to do worship coaching and stuff, But I've narrowed it down to there's 3 things that bring the presence of God.
Well, talk to us about that.
Okay, well, one was the hunger, the hunger that we had for the presence of God. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing else. The presence of God, to be in His presence, and so that's one. The hunger that in the people, the integrity of the worship team in their own worship life, because we were living it, and we would worship at kinship, we would worship at prayer meeting, we would worship here, because one of the things that John, one of the founding things that he would say to us is that, hey, some people complain about how long we do worship. We do a half hour, but this is what God has created us for. This is what we're for. So we're going to do it, and we're not going to change it. There were times that, people would come and visit from some of the mainline churches, and they would go, I really like the church, but you guys sing so long, and then it's we're not singing, we're worshiping. So there was a mindset, and it's more than semantics. We came expecting to meet with God, because
It goes back to that first thing you said, right? Hunger.
The hunger.
The hunger was the foundation, right?
Yes, that's right. Hunger for God and nothing more. And that was true of the kinship groups, and true of the Sunday morning and Sunday evening service. And that we were living a lifestyle of worship.
And what was the third thing?
The lyric of the song.
Talk to me about that.
Less songs about God, more songs to God.
When did you all see that?
I think just by the result. In other words, when you look at the Psalms, the Psalms that would get our heart were the ones that were sung to God. And when we recorded that first vinyl album, it was 82. We did 2 of them, double release. It was funny, right? And they were both released simultaneously because we had that many songs, right? And it was like, and on the way home, I remember we were driving back home in Jerry Davis's old Chevy station wagon that he got from his dad. And we're driving home. John Wimber's in the front seat, and he's falling asleep. And it was late at night, and we're coming home, and we're in the back seat. And John was like tired as all get out because we had been in the studio all day and stuff. And God is in this thing. God is in this thing. And then Carl and I were in the room, in the room. It was as big as a room, the station wagon. But he says, Eddie writes the love songs and Carl writes the anthems. And that when you hear, and yet we realized that they're intermeshed because they were all intimate songs, whether they were fast or slow. It had nothing to do with that. But John knew it. So that's when I realized it's the lyric of the song. You could sing about God, and that focuses you on the object of our worship. But when I start singing to God, it's like somebody bragging about their kids to their neighbor. But when that father says to the son, I am so proud of you.
Yeah.
I love you so much. You're or when the dad when you want to borrow the car keys, and say, "Hey dad, you butter them up," and then for the car keys, right? But when it's true worship, it's, "Dad, I just want to tell you that I love you."
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh gosh, here, have the car keys."
That's right.
Here, son.
That's right.
You
Well,
know.
I love that. Hunger, integrity, and the lyric. Yeah,
The
that's
lyric.
beautiful. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the word hunger, because one of the words that pops up over and over again in the Vineyard story, especially early on, there's two words that pop up over and over again: hunger and desperation.
Yes.
Yeah, when I talk to Carl, when I talk to Carol, when I talk to Bob and Penny, it's very interesting the word that all of them use, separate moments. We didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Hey, what was the thing?
Yeah.
They all say, we were so hungry for God.
Yes.
We were dried up.
Yes.
We were desperate.
Yes.
These words just keep coming.
Yes.
So they're like original. These are our family words.
That's right.
Yeah, and
That's
it's just
right.
interesting that you bring it up again today.
And nothing else satisfies. Once
Yeah.
you've been in the presence of God and once you've seen it, everything else is like secondary to that.
Okay, so when did you start leading worship? Like, because we kind of did some music stuff here.
Yeah.
But when did you start leading?
I want to say, well, I was leading.
Yeah.
I was on the worship team with Carl. Carl moved to Santa Maria, and then
You're like, we need somebody.
No, it was more than that.
Yeah.
I think I was leading worship with acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
I was playing electric guitar, sitting down, and backing up on the team, because in those days we sat down, and Carl and Cindy would be up front leading the girls and the guys part, and stuff. And so it went from that, and John. Carl started John wanted Carl to start a home group, and so he started his home group. And so John called me and said, "Eddie, well, why don't you come over to my house, bring your guitar, and let's just work, and let's just see what And at that time I just had started playing with the team, but it took it was, I want to say, maybe 4, 5, 6 months, maybe, And so John asked me to be the worship leader for his home group.
Amazing.
And then the group would go from like 12 to 75 to 100 people in a house, and then they'd break up, and the leaders would go off, and then we would just keep doing it. And that's how the home groups grew.
Well, it's funny. I talked to Casey on this podcast just this morning. We made an episode together, and he was talking about how, because I'd asked him, I said, when did you start leading worship, Casey? He's like, in a home group.
Right.
That's another part. That's like our Vineyard story, isn't it?
Yes.
How many of us started leading worship
in a home group?
Like we all did.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So you're leading worship in the home group, and then John turns you loose on a Sunday morning. What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah. And then when did you write some music?
I won in a home group.
Yeah.
Okay. So in our home group, in our home, I had this experience, driving to work. I was still a teacher at the time. And I forget what year it was, but it was well before I went on staff full time, because I was driving to the school that I was at. And I just had this overwhelming, repentance thing come on me at the stoplight. And I had and that's where I wrote "Change My Heart, Oh God."
In your car.
At a stop sign. Yeah. Crying. It's like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I gotta," and it was just repenting of lust. And I thought, God, I can't stop this. You've got to change my heart.
And then that's where the word came.
And that's where it came. Change my heart, oh God, make it ever true. And I said, make it ever new. The only editing I did was change true and new. And it was like taking dictation. And so
so did you write the whole thing?
The whole thing. Like
second part as well.
Second
You
part.
are the potter.
You are the potter. Yeah. Exactly like that. And then I shared it at the kinship group. we had just, I don't know if other groups did it, but our home group would do communion together on the first Wednesday, because the first Sunday was when the church did it as a whole. So we kind of did it before. And I taught them some of the things that I learned about examine your heart before you take, and so that's what it means to take unworthily, you just haphazardly, it's communion day, no, we're going to search our heart, or allow God to search our hearts, and stuff. And I sang it there as like a communion altar call song type thing. And somehow the following Sunday, when we were going to do it as a church, John comes up to me and he says, "Hey, Eddie, I hear you wrote a song." And I said, "Oh, well, yeah, and he said, "Well, let's hear it." And I said, "Oh, John, it's it was right before the service. And so come on. So I played it and stuff, and he goes, "You're teaching it this morning." I said, "It's perfect for communion. You're teaching it this morning." I thought, "Oh, okay." And it was like, when John said to do something, and not in a mean way, but I thought, okay, yeah. So we did, and like 2 weeks later, I had heard that it was in San Diego, and it had kind of stuff. So that we knew we did it before we recorded it. It wasn't the other way around.
Yeah, it had a life of its own.
It had a life. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So when you led it that morning, did the church pick it up? Or did it take a week or two?
No, I think because it's an easy song,
I mean,
two
parts.
And it's 2 parts, and people, like, "Hey, why don't you write a second verse to it?" But I didn't. I had an idea, but I didn't.
Well, that also brings up something else that I've noticed over the years. One of the things I love about a lot of our classic Vineyard songs is that they don't have a second verse.
Yeah.
I love like an A-B song.
Yes.
It's perfect for home group. It's perfect for Sunday morning. It can just be whatever the moment is.
I think that's what caused them to be so catchy. Nowadays you'd say, "Oh, it's a catchy tune." Yeah, it was a catchy tune. I'm not referring to Change My Heart, O God, but all of the songs that were simple. You didn't need a songbook. You didn't need overheads. You didn't need, and then, so one of the like with other as it progressed, now you've got an intro, a chorus, a pre-chorus, a B chorus, a C, and you've got a bridge and an outro, and you've got all this stuff, and people can't sing those. And I think Vineyard Music used a motto for one of their when they started and that was this. I think Steve Zarrett came up with it, and he said, "Some songs you can't get out of your head, and some songs you can't get out of your heart."
That's right.
And I think that's what made it so simple. I came across a little notebook with the lyric sheets that we used to pass out at the church. We used to hand them out and stuff, and they disappear every week. We'd have to print more, and they would disappear. But then after a while, how cool is it? Where at first you're like this, and okay, you're singing along, right? But then when you don't need it anymore,
you can engage your heart.
That's how we knew. It's like, oh, this is something else. This is something. Yeah.
Well, let's shift gears here just for a second. Talk to me about John Wimber.
John.
I won't even ask you anything else. Just tell me whatever. What do you want to tell us about John Wimber?
Oh gosh, I mean, John was great. He was a top-notch musician. He knew the music world and the music business, and hated it. As far as once he got saved.
Yeah,
I heard some of the stories.
Some of the songwriter tapes, like from the songwriting meetings,
yes,
which were sometimes infamous.
Yes,
I've listened to a few that were a little bit explosive, but at several moments in some of those sessions, John will talk about not wanting. He would even use this phrase sometimes, like the influence of the rock music scene he was just, he would say this sometimes. I would hear it in the tape. Like, he was very aware of that outside world.
Very much so.
Very aware in a way that maybe we're not anymore, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what it is. But you could hear it it was in his head and heart.
That's absolutely. And I'll give you an example. And John didn't have, there was like, I would say maybe one solo album that was done early on. But he wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have us all. We each all could have had a solo album or something like that.
Yeah, many.
Because he was he didn't want us to become rock stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's a capital R or a little r. He didn't want us to do that. And that's why, and also he was very careful when we would choose songs for the albums and later on the cassettes. Mm-hmm. There weren't too many songs by one songwriter, psalmist, whatever, on one album, on one cassette, because he didn't want us to do that.
Yeah, he's building worship culture.
Exactly.
Something more.
Exactly. I think it helped us. It helped to keep us humble. Mm-hmm. It helped us not to think too highly of ourselves, because that's one thing. There was such an awesomeness, I think, of that time, and that when you lose that, it can become trivial. It's like, oh, here we go, another worship set type thing, and that's when later on, like what was happening in England, it became like, oh, Matt Redman, which wasn't a Vineyard song, but definitely influenced, like, man, I'm coming back to the heart of worship.
Yeah.
I think that was that desperation. Mm-hmm. I don't want anything less. Mm-hmm. And so John
So what I'm hearing you say is John helped protect that.
He was protective. That's the word I was searching for. He was protective of us. He didn't want us to be tainted. And when you look at the Levites, I mean, they were consecrated. They didn't receive the booty of the spoils of war. Mm-hmm. They everybody tithed to them, and it was because why? Mm-hmm. Sorry.
It's okay.
Because their portion was the Lord.
Amen.
And that to me speaks of the incredible privilege and honor and humbling thing that it is to have that privilege of leading people into the presence of God. But you can't lead someone, you can't start a caravan if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know how to get there. So that was one of the things that I would incorporate in the coaching and teaching of the worship teams and stuff that we did. It's like, you got to know how to get into the presence of God in many different ways. Sometimes it's repentance, sometimes it's celebration. But if you come up with a formula that's the same Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, it becomes mundane, and you're not listening to God. What do you want to hear today?
Yeah.
How can we bless you?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well,
I get emotional. Sorry.
No, well, I was going to ask you about that. Like, we've been here for a little while together talking, and you're tender. Like, I'm just very aware of how tender your heart is.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, but I get that, because sometimes when we're talking about the Lord, like, it makes you tender.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. You don't have to ever apologize.
Well, it's
about
gratitude. That. It's like.
Yeah. I was reading a little interview that maybe you did last year with was it the Calvin Institute?
Oh, Calvin Institute of Worship. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was reading that a couple days ago, and just your tenderness now just reminded me of it. But part of that little article was it sort of talked about how even in worship you were weepy.
Yeah,
talk to me about being weepy in worship.
It happened. It would just happen. Mm-hmm. It got to the point where I would always have a second guitar player playing acoustic, and that could also harmonize and or step down to the melody.
Yeah.
And then when I would compose myself, and because when you're in a weepy thing, you get pitchy. You can't avoid it, right?
That's
you
fine.
Get pitchy. And so when somebody else could take, so that he would come down to the melody, and then I would come in with a harmony, and we'd trade places and stuff like that.
I thought it was interesting. I read that a couple of days ago, and you've been tender here. I actually appreciate it. It's beautiful.
Thanks. It's not. I mean, I can't help it.
It's so good.
I don't know. I guess who's been forgiven much loves much.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
And I'll give a little story about that. When I was 11, I found out that my grandfather had committed suicide, and my uncle had committed suicide later, and a cousin of mine committed suicide. We've got a 3-generation suicide family. And I always wondered why, when I was 14, why I was suicidal. I never understood that. And so it's like coming to Christ was like the year before I came to know Christ, I was suicidal. And so it's like, who's been forgiven much, or who has received much loves much, And so I realized that, if I had what I had planned to do when I was 14, if I had come through, I wouldn't have had any of that. I wouldn't have experienced the sunshine today.
Yeah. Well, and it occurs to me, even as you tell that story, like the first story you told when we started this podcast, when you go to the Andre Crouch and you hear the Lord say to you, I have a purpose for you.
Yeah.
We quickly attach those words to ministry or music or worship because we know your story.
Right.
But perhaps in the light of this story, like, I have a purpose to you is also the ending of suicidal thoughts. Like, all of the things that are attached to these other things as well, right? Like, maybe there's more going on there than we even know.
Yeah.
I can't help but attach those two stories a little bit
together. Absolutely. But it's a warfare. I mean, there've been thoughts after that, which are like surprise. You're like, whoa, wait a minute, where did this come from?
Yeah.
But I think absolutely, and that's why it affects your worship, but also your private worship. So it's not just that. It's just a heart of gratitude, I think.
That's beautiful. Well, I want to go back to something you said a moment ago. You said, well, sometimes I would be weepy, so I'd have a second guitar player, and if I got too overcome, I'd pull them in, let them sing the melody.
They knew. Hey, man, if you see me step away from the mic and you see me like this, you
take it, right?
You just take it.
Well, okay, so last year I was talking to my friend Chris Lizotte, and Chris said that he kind of, like, you drug him up on the stage with you.
Oh, yeah.
So he because I was asking him, he was on the podcast, and I was asking him, I'm like, well, Chris, you're like the coolest guy I know.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me about music and stuff. And he's like, well, I got started in worship with Eddie. He's like, I've just played acoustic guitar behind Eddie. And so I'm wondering, did he ever cover for you?
Oh, all the time.
Too good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I saw something on Chris.
How can you not, huh?
Yeah. And I just said, man, God's on him.
Yeah.
And so I wanted him to play.
Yeah. I love Chris. He's
wonderful guy.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. But it's fun to pull those stories all the way back together. Yeah.
We were
That's too good. Well, let me switch gears again here. To go back to Change My Heart, Oh God. It's kind of a big song, Not just in the vineyard, but like in the worship world. You can sort of like use certain songs, if you wanted to use this image. Certain songs become like tent poles that hold things up, And I would say Change My Heart, Oh God is one of those songs. It's like, it just represents more than itself. So I'm just interested, what does it feel like to you to be somebody who wrote a song that has so defined not just the Vineyard, but maybe worship in a moment? Like, because I have a few friends who are, I'm a songwriter, but I haven't had a song that's gone worldwide. But I have a few friends who have had songs that take on a life of their own. It's like, well, I didn't know that was going to happen, right?
Well,
what does that feel like?
It's gratitude producing. The crazy thing about it is that I never wanted anybody to hear that. Because I was repenting. Those lyrics were a heart's cry. They were the cry of my heart. It
Personal.
it was personal. I wasn't planning. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to have a songwriting session here. Let's see what would sound good, or even the melody and the bridge melody. I mean, the B part melody is like, oh, it's all of a sudden somebody said, oh, well, that's this or that, gave the musical term for it. That's the. And it's not the minor. You went to a major, or suspended going to a major in E, but you're in the key of C. And I thought, I didn't know what I was doing. Some of the chordings and stuff that I would do, I would hear it. The best songwriting for me happened away from an instrument, and that's what made it musically unlimited as far as what you're going to write.
Yeah. Well, it's always interesting to me to hear stories like this, because oftentimes those songs that are I'm using air quotes here, biggest, whatever that means, or the ones that travel the furthest, they oftentimes have a story like this where, the writer says essentially, well, I didn't plan it.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to write a hit.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah. It's not my favorite song. It's not, and it's not my the one that I would say, oh, wow, that I really had fun writing that one. That was a great one. It did come easy because it was a cry from the heart.
Yeah. Well, I always want to circle back and hear those kinds of thoughts about these things, because sometimes I think sometimes people think, oh, writing hits, we can just get in a room, and if we try hard enough, we'll.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're just gifts, aren't they?
Yeah, and sometimes you think too, when songs that are out now, we have it's an industry.
Yeah.
It's the franchise, and when you hear the song has this theme or this, songs about a visual picture of this, and then and then we have a whole bunch of songs that have that theme, and without, it would be too obvious if I mentioned.
I'll say it. Like, we've had river songs,
ocean songs, waves.
Yeah, it's like the language becomes, we pass it along to each other, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That was a hit. Maybe. And I'm not questioning the motive or anything like that, but I'm just saying that we didn't have that then. We didn't have, when we first heard of CCLI, that hey, Eddie, you're gonna get a check coming up. What? We didn't sign up. We didn't even sign up for ASCAP. John did that for us.
Yeah.
He did that for us. He did the CCLI thing. We didn't know what that was.
In a very strange way, even though the music doesn't sound punk, the attitude or the looseness with which you're talking about holding these things, it's so punk.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, we didn't even sign up.
Yeah,
we didn't ask CCLI. We weren't a part of ASCAP.
Yeah,
it's so different.
Yeah.
I do kind of like that.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you another story or another question that maybe is in a similar vein, and it really has to do with this idea, because I've been thinking about this for a while. What does it mean, or how do you feel being someone who was at the center of like the biggest worship thing? It was like the Vineyard in the late 80s, like in the early 90s. It was ridiculous. How does it feel to have been a part of that, and now maybe to not be a part of that swirl anymore?
I'll tell you what. If I had known it was going to be that what was happening, if I had known, I would have paid more attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I would have paid a little more attention to and I think I would have journaled or written things down and stuff, because these are all things, what we're talking about now are things off the top of my head,
Yeah.
and stuff. But we didn't take ourselves that seriously. At least most of us didn't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Can I say that? I don't
Yeah, of
know.
course you can.
I don't mean that to sound,
No, it's not.
but
it's true, right?
because if you did, you could see honestly, you could see an anointing lift off, because God doesn't share his glory. He's the only one that deserves it. He's the only one that commands it, and he's the only one that deserves it. And so I would always teach, the whole Philippians 2 thing. It's like at a concert.
Descending.
Yeah. And John, the Baptist, I must decrease, he increases, and all those concepts were so important to us. And so we would have to repeat them and teach them and stuff. And it was something that we did at the church and in our worship leader fellowships that we would have monthly and stuff, those kinds of things, to keep it, because you could visibly see it. And even when the lyrics of our songs changed, to different things. And so when we noticed, I noticed, I don't know who noticed, but that the songs that were sung to God from a pure heart, expressing love, gratitude, desire, dedication, all that, as opposed to lamenting, even God do this for us, God do that for us, God do this for us. Those are great, but those are prayers. But God inhabits the praises of his people. God inhabits the praises of his people. Psalm 22,
and
verse
talk
3.
to me, because you're making a distinction here between prayer and praise, or requests and praise. Just talk to me about praise. That seems important to me.
Yeah. When we're asking God for something in return for our prayer, that's a prayer. That's a petition, right? So there's something that we get out of it.
And that's legal.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
and there's a place for it.
Yeah.
But I noticed that when we started using too many of those songs, it was I know this sounds critical. I don't mean this at all, but it was like, gimme, 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 God, gimme, gimme, gimme. Bless me, bless me, bless me. This is what I want. But when we had songs that had to do with, even just this a simple, it wasn't a Vineyard song, but just, I love you, Lord.
Yeah.
And I lift my voice to
worship you.
Oh gosh. And the songs would, and we would teach that when the song talks about lifting your hands, do the action of it. We would teach that the action, is a reflection of the heart, of what's going on inside. So when you lift your hands, you're blessing God, yada, the hand, to worship God. So those are some of the things that really, and we weren't theologians per se. We just, we're just passionate about, and we weren't passionate about our passion. We were passionate about the object of our affection, of Jesus.
You want to say that again?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, Eddie.
Because this is
preach it. Preach it.
Glory.
Glory. Preach it. We weren't
it's
passionate about our passion.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the fears that I see now is that if I could say something to the younger worship leaders.
Well, I was going to ask you.
Is that the next one?
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Is this a good segue?
Yeah,
or should I wait?
Come on, keep going.
Well,
just speak to Vineyard worship leaders. Speak to Vineyard pastors. They're listening.
We don't want to get passionate about our passion, because then that's sort of like a couple being in love with romance. Okay? We love the journey. We love the feeling. No. There's the end. The end result is intimacy with God. The end result is the presence of God for a purpose. We're changed in this presence. We're motivated. We become more like Him. I do this teaching on magnets, and I would do it. Just one of these things that came to me: the paper clip, as it rubs up against the magnet, becomes magnetized,
yes,
right?
Correct.
And it can do some of the things that the magnet does. Sometimes to the same degree, but not always. But the magnet, the paperclip has to keep coming back to the magnet. Well, how much better would it be if you took a gold thread, a gold wire, and attached it to the magnet and attached it to the paperclip, and then it's always connected. And that's what walking in intimacy, walking in the anointing. There's so many.
Yeah, worship is that connection. Though.
Is that connection?
Yeah.
So the daily worship, the intimate worship, the I will bless the Lord at all times worship. So that it's not only about the event, it's about the devotional time of the worship leader, the worship team, the worship leaders, all the, and then the spontaneous stuff. Someday I'm gonna, write.
Well, why don't you do that sooner rather than later?
I know, right? I'm 67. Yeah, I better, huh?
No. Maybe this summer.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
this summer. It'll be a good time to do that.
It would be.
I like that. The paperclip can do some of what the magnet can do.
Yeah, but it has to keep going back. And so that's the gas station approach to church. I got to get to church. And we had that. We loved that, but we lived it during the week too. So church was just a byproduct of what we were living during the week.
I love that. Man, Eddie, thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
Thanks, man. Are we over?
I think we're gonna tie a bow on it right here. But here's what I'd like to do. The next time I'm in California, let's just do this again.
Oh, that'd be great.
Would that be cool?
I'd love that.
Yeah. I also want to say before we quit, you have great hair. Hi, am I right, Mark?
Mark's Do I really? Well, you know what?
Mark is giving me the yes too. So
is that it?
Yes.
Well, I got a call the other day, and the 80s called, and they want their hair back.
No, listen. Everything that comes back. You know this, right? Everything's cyclical.
I will not wear hip huggers or bell bottoms.
Listen, just rock the hair, okay? You just keep going there.
It's real. It's mine.
Keep it.
It's not dyed, but anyway,
come on, let's go.
I appreciate it.
Let's go.
Well, bless your heart,
Eddie. This is how we end this season of the podcast. A little fill in the blank rather than a question.
Yes.
This one thing I know is, and I'll just leave it to you. You fill that blank in.
This one thing I know is that. In answer to the question about what happens when you're not the flavor of the month, and I don't mean that disparagingly, but you're not the go. I just want everybody to know that I came to a point in my life where I said, God, if I never write another song, if I never pick up the guitar, if I never, because the phone stops ringing, the opportunities are less or non-existent, and or then they pick up again, or that I, Lord, I just want you, I just want you, and so when that happens, first of all, all I know is that His great love for us is so much more than what we do for Him, that we can do with Him, and that will accomplish that intimacy that we had, that God has started in the beginning.
Amen. Can't say any better than that.
Oh,
high fives. All right, everybody. Peace.